said it. That's too funny. It hasn't always been like that, right?
No, no, Instagram, what is it? Functionality is different. So,
Hi, happy Tuesday.
happy Tuesday. How's your week going?
It's going good. It's been productive so far. Nothing too crazy.
Good.
Yeah, how about you?
Yeah, I just got back. I was out of town for friend's engagement, so I just got back this morning. So it's good. Now I'm gonna go sleep after this
Same
till
here.
the end of time.
Tired.
But it's going good.
Yeah. Oh, good. I really liked that I thought that when we were talking about creating this, I like that you brought up bringing up self-image first. I think that's a really good foundation
Yeah,
to anything, just moving forward. I mean, how are you supposed to feel empowered when you don't feel 100% yourself?
exactly.
That was a great first topic to start this with. Um,
Awesome.
yes, so I think a good starting point would be to talk about what self-image is for you and maybe your personal experience and how you've kind of shaped your mentality, um, what it is.
Yeah, self-image is an interesting thing because I think there's two kind of aspects. I think there's like a perception of self and like your actual self, right? Which is more like self-identity. And I think often when you think about image, I know like historically I've been one of those people who was like always like looking over my shoulder to see like what everyone else would do. It's funny because I used to do when I was little, my mom put me in Bollywood dancing, which for those who don't know what Bollywood is, it's like the Indian film industry. And a lot of us grew up doing that. So there's all these videos of me, and I'd be looking over like my shoulder, looking at what other people are doing. So instead of looking straight ahead at the audience, I'm like, "Hello, like, what are you doing?" And so I think I've always been caught up a lot in others' perception of me, and it's been a while for me to get to the point where I even thought about like caring about what I think of me, which is what I define as self-image. So um, I think my self-image got lost in and conflated with others' perceptions of me, and I think I mistook what my self-image was for what others thought of me, or what I thought others thought of me, is what I really should say. Now I think I'm in a much, I think college, once I hit college, I was in a much healthier place, and that I distinguished it, and my self-image actually started mattering to me more as like caring about what I think of me. And I think it started improving. I think I started kind of, as I started finding more a sense of identity and like who I was, my self-image also improved, because I think it's just a matter of having a self-image and really being able to just, again, distinguish that from others' perceptions of me, and realizing that they don't have to be the same, or like, yes, one can influence the other, but really when you separate it, I think it's better. And then we started focusing more on the self-image part rather than the like other perceptions part. That being said, it's still something I struggle with. I think it can be a hard thing to work on. It takes a lot of hard work to I think it's a very like verb, it's not just something that's there. I don't see it as much of it now, and I see it more as something I work on every day. I think some things that help me now are affirmations are
Mhm.
huge for me in terms of shaping. I think before it was more just like figuring out what my self-image was, but now I'm more intentional about like forming my self-image, right? And actually like molding it into something that's good and healthy. And I think it's like you said, it's the foundation of like empowerment, right? So being, again, affirmations, even having something like a morning routine, right? And making sure I'm centered. I think social media plays a huge part in self-image, and separating my own self-image from what I'm like the brand I've crafted on social media, for example, is like another huge thing that I've been working on, I think, more as of late. Especially with COVID-19, I'm sure you can relate. Like, a lot of us have been spending more time on social media, or possibly less. But for me, it's definitely increased, because it's less of my interactions can happen in person safely. So social media becomes the other outlet. And I think sometimes it's easy to conflate self-image, or it's easy to let how others engage with your profile influence my own self-image. And I've really worked to draw that boundary, and like really have it and have kind of be more authentic on social media, so that my self-image is more out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a lot of kind of things influence my self-image on like a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
What about yourself?
Well, thank you for sharing. I, I'm struggling with it quite a bit. And it just started to change the way I'm trying to think just last year, which is when I came across the Talking Wellbeing page. But, growing up younger, I really was taught to be a certain way. Like I was told that girls were supposed to be one way, like I have to be um,
Mm-hmm.
spoken and I was completely rambunctious. I was like the complete opposite. So I was really confused growing up of what um, I was supposed to be versus who I actually am. And I really just started to embrace that in the last year. And like you said, I think self concept is just an umbrella term. Self image really goes down back to the core, right? Uh, I, I, have you heard of imposter syndrome?
Oh yeah, I've experienced it myself.
Yeah. And you know what? I feel like that's just human, feel like just like you're not good enough. But I think that what we need to do is reprogram our brains. I jotted down a few notes. Sorry, like looking over here. So growing up, I really didn't have a really good self image of myself, and then interacting with people, you like you said, like you're looking over your shoulder. Am I doing this right? Or there's that fear and that anxiety speaking over you. And then again, social media also plays a role. Um, I've had to kind of change up the way I like the post that I like, because that creates a whole new reel of anything on my feed, and
Yeah.
I don't even know where to begin. It's just it's a really important topic that I'm still struggling with it on a day-to-day basis. And like you said,
Mm-hmm.
creating a schedule for myself and acknowledging feelings and not letting myself be defined by it is one of the more important things. So like I said, I'm very type A.
Yeah.
I have to let go of that inner perfectionist and just allow myself to be a little bit, messy, I guess.
Yeah.
But I think that it trickles down, like just from the concept to self-image to self-esteem. But again, with the daily affirmations and a gratitude, doing my yoga, even just changing my diet, I've noticed
Mm-hmm.
a different mood change. But yeah, I think it really stemmed from just growing up differently, a very structured setting and kind of being against what I was being taught, and that created rifts and broken relationships just because I wasn't doing things a certain way. So it really
Yeah.
wasn't until last year that I really started to kind of get away from all that, and it's just been very enlightening. And I know that I'm not the only. Oh, I don't know what happened there.
Oh, I think the connection was weird for a second, but you were saying you were something about last year, and then
Um, oh, I was just saying that last year was really just like my kind of like my calling. Um,
mm-hmm.
the chain of events that happened last year, and now with COVID and spending more time with myself, um, I think I've gotten a lot better at it. And of course, talking with Talking Wellbeing, James and Goose.
Yes. So you mentioned kind of spending time with yourself, has helped you. What kind of activities do you like to, how do you like to spend time with yourself, to kind of nourish that self-image and, just care, again, and that related topic is self-care as well. So,
I know this is going to sound kind of strange, but I like to reorganize. I am trying to
oh,
live
I do that all the time.
my style, and it's less chaotic. So when I get
Yeah.
fancy, I'll just keep myself busy doing little things. But like just like you said, when I wake up, I'll close my eyes for 5 minutes. I'll say an affirmation. I like to stage a lot. Candles, plug in my Christmas tree, just the little things I'm trying to appreciate.
Yeah.
Like staying off of the social media. I think if you like look at my Instagram, like setting, how you can look in your settings and see how long you're on it for. I think
Mm-hmm.
an hour a day, which is not too bad compared to
Nice.
that we're doing and promoting. And that's where I was saying, like, I changed what I see on my feed. So I see a lot more positive things. I see a lot more yoga things that I can do. So when I do,
Mm-hmm.
and I can go for a walk while it's still nice outside. Or, I've also cut down the habit of online shopping. I think that makes it worse. honestly, because
Yeah.
material things, they're not going to make you happy, even though it's just temporary happiness.
Oh, yeah.
Really sitting with yourself and allowing yourself to feel the anxiety and kind of just thanking it and letting it go. Um, I think that's truly proven beneficial for me. And again, I do that through the affirmations. And I found a lot of light through yoga, and just even morning stretches. If you just get up and stretch a couple of times
Hmm.
slow, and then even once before bed, like you will just feel less tense. You feel more
Yeah.
productive and more prepared for the day,
Yeah.
get those endorphins running.
Yeah, yeah. I'm still personally working on the social media consumption part. Like I mentioned, I actually ended up increasing my social media consumption when COVID started. What I've been doing, I think a little different from you, because an hour a day, very impressive. I try to go, like, I'll give myself like stretches of time to go without social media. So, like, if I check it at some point, I'll be like, okay, can't do it for the next 2, 3 hours. And I find that instead of having a vague goal of not checking it that much in 24 hours, if I give myself a specific goal of don't check it for 2 to 3 hours, it works a lot better, And I find, and I've noticed that, again, like, I think as a society, we're really bad at just sitting and just doing nothing. I find that I fill a lot of like small gaps of time, like let's say 5 minutes or 10 minutes with my phone, like, because that is the only thing I can think of that I can do for 5, 10 minutes. So it's not even like it doesn't actually come from a need of actually wanting to check my phone that much, really,
Yeah,
or, getting that much value from phone usage. It's just that
habitual.
that's the yeah, it's the easiest thing to do, right? In 5, 10 minutes. And it's better than sitting there and like thinking. And
Yeah,
I'm like you, then similar, like I feel a lot of anxiety, and that's really hard to just sit with, right? It's easy to distract yourself. I think another thing for me, a huge thing for me, has been diet.
hmm
I'm a huge foodie, so food is another very big coping mechanism. Um, and I've had to shape my diet to feel better, feel cleaner. It's not, and really just develop a healthy mindset around food.
yeah,
I purposefully stayed away from dieting. For me, it was more like realistic
yeah,
goals. Like, for example, I'll only eat out with friends. That's one goal I've set for myself. Like, or if I really want to like eat, maybe like order in like once besides going out with friends, or just eating at home, even of eating at home more, in the morning, making sure I have breakfast, just small things like that that really make, like you said, a difference. And then I think the other thing for me has become journaling. Journaling is something I just didn't make time for it. It was just one of those things I used to do when I was in high school, just for fun. And then I just, in college, how busy college gets, like I
yeah.
just dropped it. Like it was just one of those things I didn't make time for. And so this year I actually, because I was at home more, I had that time again, and I felt a pull towards writing and journaling. And I got this journal where it's like small prompts for like, and it's like a 5-year journal. So like on each day you do it for like 5 years. And I think it's a capsule journaling essentially. And what's nice is that it only takes like 5 minutes. So I think instead of thinking of the journaling as this huge thing where I have to write like a ton every day, I just write that for 5 minutes, and it's become a habit. So like I think getting thoughts out like through writing, and like it's helped me sit too with things,
Yeah, you're
you
not
know?
like wondering like what do I need to do now? Just sitting. You're in the moment.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
appreciating silence and the non-chaos of the world.
exactly,
Little bubble,
exactly.
little space. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I also try to like not be on my, like if I go for a walk, so there's like a lake right outside my neighborhood. If I go for a walk, I try to not be on my phone while I'm going for a walk. Like I try to just
Sure.
go for a walk.
Yeah.
That's it. Because I'm like, what's the point of being outside if I'm just being on my phone, right? And like browsing or social media or whatever. I've also changed my feed similar to you. There were just a lot of extra. It was so funny because the way I noticed it was like looking at my follower count compared to like how many accounts I was following, and the number of accounts I was following is so much. I was like, do I really need to like follow all these accounts? Like, am I? I mean, it's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with following more accounts than you have followers, but I think it just made me think.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
actually did that. I think I cleaned out about 250 people.
At least, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. Mine was in the upwards of 1,000, and I reduced it. And like I said, and if now I find an actual account, I'm a lot more intentional about what accounts I follow. Before, I'd see a lot of like people's stories, just see a post like, oh, that seems like a cool account, and just give it a follow. And I kind of think twice. Like, I feel like I can appreciate a post without following every single account I see.
Yes, yes,
Um,
yes, yes.
yes, and I've decided to like even just unfollowing people I don't interact with anymore. I knew that person in high school, but like exactly, I don't need to see their like, and it's not. Sometimes I think Instagram follows, Facebook friends can be taken kind of personally, like, oh, if you unfollow, it's not. But I'm like, it's not really about that anymore, though.
Mhm.
There's just certain like I don't need to be friends with all the people I knew in high school. I don't interact with most of them anyways.
Well, and Instagram's like one of the most used apps, I feel like. So I have a Facebook, and honestly, I haven't really cleaned out because I don't access it as much, but something that I'm
Mm-hmm.
daily, at least once a day, is Instagram. So of course I'm going to tailor the feed to what it is that I see. Like
Yeah,
one from middle school that I spoke to only once isn't going to help me in my journey. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like, okay, well, it's really not that deep.
Yeah, and it's not. I didn't think it would make that much of a difference. I don't think I realized how much my feed made a difference in my well-being until this year,
Yeah,
when Instagram started being used for education and talking about like more social justice discussions, activism. I mean, not that it wasn't used before. I think I became more aware of how
right.
it was used more before. It wasn't that Instagram suddenly became that hub. It's just that I started coming across more of those accounts because I've been doing a lot more mental health advocacy work myself this year. So then you start, once you get into something like advocacy, activism, that kind of stuff, you start becoming more aware and conscious. And I've been doing some other stuff similar to you, like just to become more conscious and
Yeah,
stuff like that. So I think that's what made me more aware that, oh, like my Instagram feed matters, and like
yeah,
filling it with some of those accounts that talk about like just more wellness, and
yeah.
even like accounts with affirmations. I follow this account that like reminds you not to check your phone, which is actually great. Like it'll have like little quotes, and it'll be like, what are you doing spending time on your phone? Like it's more gentle than that, but just things like that can interrupt the feed, and it's on constantly. And sometimes if I like the mute function, because sometimes it's not that you don't want to follow someone, but sometimes the content can be very triggering. Like sometimes there are some accounts that like post a lot about COVID-19, which I think is in good intentions, but for me that would cause me anxiety. There was a period of time where I just couldn't look. I had to limit my usage and exposure to stuff about COVID-19, just for my own mental health. So things like that. So I think figuring out how to use, and it's not just Instagram, right? I mean, another one that I stayed off of personally is TikTok, because I knew how much time I would probably end up spending on it. But for those people who are listening and might use other forms of social media, just figuring out, it's not, I don't think it's about that you have to completely shut down. I think social media can be very useful actually in terms of accessing resources. I think it's about figuring out how to use it.
How to
That
like, tailor it to your being, pretty much. And
exactly.
yeah, a lot of the anxiety came from the self-image stuff. You're seeing girls with fillers and like all this stuff, and then you take a look at the mirror and you're feeling kind of crappy. Um, you know,
Yeah, yeah, because you're real. You
uh,
don't have fillers in your life. You know
right.
what I mean?
So I like how you mentioned the diet part too. So I guess hold on, let me take a step back here. So I have a question. So you've been doing this for quite a while for yourself then, correct? Do you feel like your habits have become like it's habitual now to get up and write in your journal? Like how was that a difficult step for you to take, like, or to begin with? Like was it like you would just forget or you would just
Yeah, yeah.
you know,
I think it's interesting because I'm such a perfectionist that like I live and breathe like my to-do list. Like that is what runs my day for
yeah,
the most part. So for me, when self-care becomes another to-do, I get stressed out about it. It doesn't actually like help then at that point. If it's like another to-do item. So for me, it had to be something that actually felt like it was adding to my day rather than just being another thing. So I think for the longest time I viewed journaling as, oh, it's just another thing I have to do. I think this year, because like I said, I had the time, And it became more of a thing I just wanted to do. And I think that was like what helped it become
Uh,
a good habit. And
yeah.
the other thing I think is key is, like I mentioned, capsule journaling. It only takes me 5-10 minutes. I actually do it in the evening. I don't actually do it. Yeah, it's like let me find it. It's like this. So it's like a journal. I call it capsule journaling because it's like a Q&A.
Okay.
So you like have a page. I haven't written on January's yet because it started later, but basically each day is like 5 years. So you like, it's like a few lines. So it's like a really quick thing, and they
Oh,
ask little questions. Yeah. So for me, I needed something that was smaller. You know, for some people, like longer journaling might work, but this actually works really well for me because it makes me do it for 5 minutes, which is perfect for me. It's like 5-10 minutes. I still sit with my thoughts, and sometimes I actually have like blank journals too, for the odd day that I feel like writing more. Like sometimes I just have an anxious episode and I have to get my thoughts out. So like in that case, I'll just pick up a journal, but that's not like a certain frequency. That's just for when I like need to get it out. So I like having different journals for different purposes because I don't feel like I have to write in the longer journals every day. That's more just like whenever I want to.
I love that you said that. I didn't realize, but I do the exact same thing. I journal separately, and then I have like a separate, like it's called 52 List for Happiness. And then you do,
Uh,
so it's like it kind of keeps my. I don't want to say I get bored, but it's different, you know.
yeah, exactly.
List is different, and you're doing something different, and you're tailoring it to your mood.
Yeah.
I really like that you. I didn't realize that I was doing that until you said that. I'm like, oh,
Yes.
2 or 3 different things going on in my little cupboard over there. Like,
Yes, exactly. And I think that's okay. Like I realize that's like it's good to have like I think some of those journals that are like have those activities or are driven by wellness
yeah,
are super great because they'll ask you, I think they get you to think about things intentionally. Yeah, I
yeah,
love journals with question prompts. Like that is so nice because it focuses my writing. It gets me to think about things that I sometimes don't think about. You know, I think the thing with free writing journaling is it's just like, and I think free writing journaling is great too, especially for people who really like writing. But I think sometimes you like end up seeing the same themes over and over again. And I think sometimes those question journals help you reflect on things that you probably would be useful to think about, but you just might not actually think of them. So I like to have a balance. This I have a free write journal for the times I need it. And
hmm
then I have like a capsule journal. The other, I have a third journal that it's have you read Michelle Obama's book, Becoming?
on my bookshelf.
Yes. So she has a journal which I came across on someone else's Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I love it. It's like tailored to write a memoir, but what I'm not trying to write a memoir, but what I like about it is like it had like a prompt about like my childhood home, and it's like I never stopped and like try to remember that, you know. So I think some of the prompts in her book, it's just cool because it leads me to reflect back on times in my life, you know, because the way it's structured. So that's why. So that's another one I do. Again, that's not something I schedule. It's just more I just do it when I feel like it.
I like that. It sounds like a gratitude journal.
Yeah,
You know,
it is. It is. Well, not exactly a gratitude. I think
uh,
it's more like I said, it's a memoir journal.
definitely some. It makes you reflect and think,
Yeah.
and you kind of a little bit more appreciative, I guess, in that sense.
Oh yeah. I think journaling inherently is gratitude. It's a gratitude practice, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah. No, there's gratitude journals. That's your point. There are gratitude journals that are specifically for that. Like if someone I know there's like I think you mentioned you do like a happiness journal. Is
Yeah,
that what it is?
52 lists for happiness, so 52 days. Um, I'm still working on it.
Yes. So that's basically like a gratitude journal.
But I
But yeah. So
think I can bring it really quick for anybody that's watching or is curious.
wondering, yeah. I was trying to look for my. There it is. This is my Michelle Obama journal.
Okay, so this is just my regular journal that,
Oh.
and I like this because I've been reflecting back on my older.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, wow, I've come really far, which makes it a little bit better. But this is the 52 lists for happiness.
Oh, that's awesome.
Cute little book. But yeah, every day is a.
Yeah.
Let's see. So list 5 lists the best choices you've made in your life so far. And again, I think that reflects back to the self-image thing. Like you can look back and say, okay, I did this. Or imposter syndrome. Like with imposter syndrome, you undermine yourself and your experiences. So I
Yeah.
think with a list like this or any kind of journaling like that, that makes you think back and bring up old experiences,
Mhm.
that helps you realize that you are where you are because of your qualifications and what you've done.
Yes,
I
I
mean,
like that.
so
That's awesome.
I really like that. And actually, I found a podcast for Imposter Syndrome if anyone was interested. Her name is
Mhm.
Valerie Levine, and I just found her like an hour ago.
Oh, look at that. Valerie Levine. Does she so she focuses on imposter syndrome?
She actually does women's empowerment podcast.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, cool.
98 or 99 episodes, and they're very
Uh-huh.
um I'll list it, but that was a really great podcast, and she talks about the imposter syndrome. She gives off, I think,
Mhm.
I didn't finish it. I think it's 10 tips on how to kind of get over that, and
Good. Okay.
not, nip it in the butt when you start to feel a certain way. And so she does say, like, learn to celebrate your success, release your inner perfectionist, journal a little bit more and be kinder to yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. So talk to me more about your experience with imposter syndrome. Like, are there specific instances, specific times in your life where you experienced it more?
All the time. So when I first started my nursing job, I was like, when I had first graduated and I got this job, I was in
Mhm.
rec, and I was constantly looking at my peers, like all the girls that I'd started with. I'm like, am I
Mhm.
wrong? It like did,
Yeah.
looking over my shoulder, like, well,
Right.
are they doing it? But you have to have your own flow when it comes to that. Or just recently, what happened? Asking people what they're going to wear. I think that's
Yeah.
the most common ones. Like, well, if you're wearing that, then I want to wear this. Like,
Right. Exactly. I do that all the time.
you know, maybe I should just stick to the one or two outfits that I find, and then go through my clothes. So I think that's a really good example of a daily thing. Like, well, I want to match with everybody else.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. That makes sense.
little doubts about the day, but since I listened to this podcast, I've just all these it's all coming into my head now. Like, it's a really good podcast. But just I think on a daily, I need to be a little bit more kind to myself, and I just do notice myself. Like, even just doing this live, I was telling James, like, how are you feeling? I was like, I'm a little nervous. um, you know, but I feel like he wouldn't have asked me to do it if he didn't think otherwise. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just going back to that, like, he wouldn't have asked me to do a live or to create any sort of content if he didn't think that what I was making was great or saying was great or was knowledgeable or could be useful. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and I get
That back. He's laughing.
Yeah, I similar to you had a lot of imposter syndrome in my first job. Um, so I work in HR now, but my first job out of college was as a business analyst at a bank. And I was making a transition from engineering. So my undergrad degree was in engineering, so I was not going to work in that field. So it was kind of like my first time in that world, that finance world, and um, I I don't know. When I got the job, I felt like it was a fit, and then I got there, and they were just my intuition was telling me things were off. I wasn't super engaged. I did find it super interesting. I wasn't very close to a lot of the people that started with me, which not for lack of trying.
Yeah.
So there was all these like little red flags going off a little bit for lack of fit. And I started the job with like really high expectations, and again looking at like what are other people doing, how are other people performing, and not spending enough time on me and my kind of grasp of the job, and um, even just trying to engage in all of that stuff. So definitely dealt with a heavy case of imposter syndrome. I would say it kind of came back during COVID-19. I'd done a lot of work on it, and it was kind of lower, I would say, pre-COVID than it usually is. And then I don't know if it's spending more time at work or a lot of the anxiety around COVID kicked up the perfectionism a little, a notch or two, which brought back imposter syndrome. A lot of like my expectations that used to like I kind of worked to get them down to like a healthy level went
Yeah.
back up to like perfectionism levels and stuff. So I feel like I feel like that's important to acknowledge that it's not just linear. Like it's not just always going to be like my self image is always going to
Gonna be like,
continuously improve. It's going to be up and down. There's days where you might feel like shit. And there's days where you might feel really great. So, And that doesn't mean that you have poor self-image just because you feel, you know, you have a bad day or two. It just means you're human. I think.
Right. That's what
So
Valerie says in her podcast. She says, acknowledge your feelings and know that you're not defined by it. You know,
exactly.
back and kind of try to figure out what the cause is. I liked what James just asked. Do you think that imposter syndrome can affect women of color differently?
Yes. Yes, especially when you live in a country where you're not the majority or you don't see yourself represented regularly. I think you can feel like an imposter, you know, in that country. Like I know, I mean, but Ruchi, I don't know if you grew up in the US.
Yeah.
I grew up in the US, yeah. So obviously, you know, we weren't surrounded by South Asian women. You know, that's just not, you know, whether we went to school or, you know, there might be a community, but like in general, we're not the majority here. So like for me, I personally struggled a lot with just, you know, I think a good example is that my mom used to make food for me that I would bring to school. And like all these kids, like, I'd be like, oh, it's gross or disgusting, or like,
I
I
remember.
remember that memory very distinctly, and I think that like that obviously kicks in imposter syndrome. Like, oh, my food doesn't belong here. Like that's you start internalizing that. And that I was what, like I was like 5 or 6 when this happened. Like, you know, it's just like from a really young age. So I do think depending on what country you're in and who you're surrounded by, women of color probably experience imposter syndrome at higher levels for sure.
Yeah, I can agree with that for sure. Yeah, like I said, I grew up being told that I had to be a certain way when I just wasn't. And then I just felt
Right.
wasn't myself because I'm like, who really am I? You know,
Mm-hmm.
I hung out with different crowds of people and I wasn't just limited to the one, like Indian crowd.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it definitely does play a role again because I didn't grow up in India. I didn't,
Mm-hmm.
it sounds really bad, but I can't, I'm trying to, but I can't really speak Hindi. But just things like that. Or I remember my mom just being like, well, why can't you do this? Why can't you do that? Like, I feel like that really kind of shaped me because I was like, well, I just don't want to, or I just don't, no interest in that. But again, the whole like, it just evolved how I thought about myself. Um, because I thought I was supposed to be very cultured and soft spoken and, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
following the rules and doing as I was told. And I don't know, it definitely does affect women of color
Yeah. Yeah. I think.
ways, cultures too.
Mhm.
Been learning to embrace some better parts of it, and I just feel a lot happier, and I feel like a weight has lifted off my shoulders because the world is changing. That's not how it was like 10 years ago, even. So I think just going with the flow and just accepting what you like and what you don't like and leaving it at that, saying no. And yeah, I think just the way you approach it too. So
Yeah. I think being the child of immigrants is a very unique experience in and of itself. You know, I have friends, I have Indian friends, both who grew up here like me, and then grew up in India, and it's very, very different experience. I think like when you're a child of an immigrant, you feel this sense of being in no man's land.
yeah, right,
You know, you're like I am like I didn't grow up in India, so I don't have that experience, right? like
right.
like when you go to India, you're seen as what, an NRI, like you don't really belong in India because, oh, you're from the US. And then when you're here, you're told you're not American enough by, you know, a lot of white people that I've interacted with, you know, in the past. So it's like, or there's things like where you get teased for things about your culture, or like et cetera, et cetera. So it's like, where do I belong? Like, I'm an Indian American and I don't feel like I belong to India or America, or in India or America, right? So it's like you said, I think it's a lot easier when you just accept what you like and how you want to engage with both cultures.
Yeah,
And that, you know, just because I think I had to like detach myself a lot from the signals that other people gave me in terms of how I belong. And it was kind of like make like I get to decide how much I belong. You don't get to make that decision, you know, or
yeah.
you don't get to tell me that.
That's,
So I think it's kind of just like being able to take up my space my way. And again, this goes back to just self-image in general and self-identity. Is like, this is what I like, and you know, you're not, you know, less cultured if you don't speak Hindi. For example, I think that's like one example, right? Like you can speak English and still be a cultured person, or like it's okay if you don't like to like Bollywood dance or
Yeah.
don't listen to as much Bollywood music. Like I personally don't listen to that much Bollywood music myself, or like
Yeah.
um you know, it's just I listen to what I listen to and I am who I am.
Grew up. Yeah. Actually, so when I moved out to college, and the story has stuck with me in my head, I moved out to college and it was mostly Caucasian people, very few Indians. But I joined a sorority and someone had said to me, well, I'm glad you finally found where you can fit in. And I'm like, I don't know what that was supposed to mean.
I was like, oh, that's quite a statement.
I'm like, again, it didn't help my situation. Letting other people define and just constant chatter, really. So
Yeah, it's noise.
learning how to mute that out.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And learning to have confidence in like what you decide. You know, I'm actually really bad. Like, I think another area where I experience imposter syndrome is like making decisions for myself.
Yeah.
You know, I'm the type of person like I'll go ask for a million opinions. Like I'll ask all of my friends what they think about this one small decision, and then I'll ask both my parents. Like I'll go to my mom, and then I'll get an opinion from my dad too, which usually is confused. Like I have to realize that at a certain point it's good enough, and it now I have a threshold for like if it's not that big of a decision, like just make it yourself. You really don't need to go consult like other people for everything.
Felt my mom, dad, grandma, uncle, cousin twice moved and I feel so much better that I don't talk to anybody about decisions that I'm going to make. I feel a lot more confident when I make those decisions. And then when I talk about it later, they'll go, oh, that's great. I don't
Exactly.
I don't want to weigh out and then all of a sudden whatever, like if I want to make a decision on something and they talk me out of it and then I'm still going to continue to think about it and then I'll never make that decision.
Yeah, you get paralyzed by overthinking. I mean, I generally do that anyways, even without asking for other people's opinions. But and then giving myself a time limit on decisions as well.
I like that. So what do you mean time limit? Like a certain
Like
amount?
literally, like I'm only allowed to spend this much time debating my options. You know, and sometimes it'll be like
Good for
5-10 minutes.
indecisive as I am. That's awesome.
it's not always it's not always perfect. You know, this is actually something I've started only doing recently.
Yeah.
But or if I still need to think about it, so after the time limit, if I still have to think about it, I'll sleep on it. Like I make the I guess the other decision to like let me sleep on it, because I find that sleep actually clears my head. Like I think the clearest in the morning, like right when I wake up. Like after I get out of my sleep fog, I'm like, okay, when I'm actually awake, that first moment, I'm like, that's what because then I know, I don't know, there's a sense of like, before my brain gets thinking, I know what decision I want to make. There's a lot of decisions that I actually know what I want to do. I'm just not confident about what I want to do. It's not that I don't actually know what choice I want to make. It's more just getting the confidence in making that choice, because I've become hyper aware. There's like 500 other voices in my head, probably like my
Constantly
mom's voice, my dad's voice, like
that, yeah.
exactly. So I think and the more I've made decisions faster, the more confident I've gotten. Because then even if I make the wrong decision, it's like it's not a big deal. It's like, okay, well that worked out that way. Okay, next time I'll probably do that. You know, it's more of like a learning thing than like I made the wrong decision. I don't even think I personally try to not tell myself that I made the wrong decision. Like I mean, there's very few
One for you and that's it. It just
yeah.
didn't work out. And I like that I forgot let my train of thought. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, so just trying to be more decisive. Even small things like food, like these are things that I will sometimes get stuck on. Like I'll just sit at the restaurant and be like, I didn't know what to eat. It's like, how consequential is this? You can come back to this restaurant and have the other dish. Like it's not really a big deal. So like I make sure I make those decisions like 2 minutes. Like, okay, let's just pick something and go with it. But I find that like doing that with smaller decisions helps with the bigger decisions too, because I get in the habit of just making choices and being confident about making choices. And that started to trickle into bigger decisions now, where I'm actually like, no, I can make a choice. Like I know, and I've considered all my options, and I get to a point, again, it's getting to a point of not having to be a perfect decision, or
Yeah.
making sure I really don't need to consider all my options.
Gonna grow.
Yeah,
Good. I don't know how,
exactly.
if you don't make the decision, then how would you know? Like you don't create an experience that
Exactly. Exactly. You're paralyzed by uncertainty, right? It's like the choices you make.
Paralyzed. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. So that's I think that's a huge part of imposter syndrome for me, is that decision making and all of that.
Yeah, I like that you put the time limit thing. I'm very, very, very indecisive. And I've been trying to change it, and I didn't think that, okay, if I don't know what I want for dinner, if I can't decide by 8 o'clock, I'm just gonna make pasta.
There you go. Exactly. Exactly. Because it's just dinner. You just
Just
gotta feed
healthy
yourself.
tomorrow.
There you go. Yeah, no, I think this decisiveness is very, very important. It's especially in terms of like making your dreams come true, you know, and having big dreams. And I think for me, that's really been. I think the other thing that's been helpful is intention setting. Kind of similar to those lines, rather than goal setting, which are different. So goals are something you're trying to kind of future oriented in terms of like you're working towards
Career.
an outcome. Yeah, and intention, you know, is for those, you know, who are wondering the difference. Intention is something you do today. Like this is like I'm going to live in the present moment is an intention, versus like I'm going to you know, get this deliverable done by tomorrow is the goal, right? So I think for me, I've tried to focus more on. I mean, I still have my goals. You know, I think I need those to meet deadlines and like get, you know, the stuff that I need to get done, but I think for me, intentions have been very good in terms and bringing myself like I just shared, one of mine is living in the present moment every day.
Yeah.
And I usually only do like 2 intentions per month, and I try to practice those in the entire month rather than switching my intentions every day, because that can be chaotic for me.
Do you
Um,
keep maybe like an intention or two throughout the day? So I have some that are listed on my refrigerator that I like to look at every day. And like one that I tell myself every morning is I'm going to have a calm day today.
oh, I like that one.
Like something really simple as like a daily intention or I guess affirmation, uh,
Yeah,
you know? But I
yeah.
like a month and practicing that.
Yeah, I mine are so I do that. So I basically like at the beginning of the month, I will set 2 intentions. That's it. I don't try to set more than that. I set two, maybe three, that I practice every day for that month. And then sometimes I'll carry the intentions over for the next month.
I like
It's
that.
just that I reevaluate at that month. That doesn't mean that my intentions will change necessarily. It just means that I kind of think about it again. Like, oh, are these the intentions I want? Do I want to change them? And I keep them on my to-do list, because when I keep them on my to-do list, they become as important as my to-do list. So I actually do them too, right? It's actually at the top. So it's in my head, if I put something at the top, it's more important. So for me, the intentions, I think the intentions become more important. And I like intentions because it feels like I did them every day. It's something that I feel accomplished about every single day, rather than like goals. Like I said, goals again are great, but goals are like I feel accomplished when I get to them. But I like having something that I just feel good about every day. My other one is, so right now it's the live in the present moment and like always prioritize you. That's my other one. Um, yeah. So that's in because I've been working a lot on like just saying like making sure I'm not rejecting my own needs and drawing boundaries. So that's that intention is for that. And I've had it for the last 5 months. So it's a very hard intention, but I like it. It really
I
centers.
really, really, really like that intention. So, you know, my job is very stressful and I'm
Mhm.
a workaholic.
Yeah.
So full an enormous amount of hours per week. And oh, I'm sorry, I was reading something. I, you know, I travel for work, so I came home just 10 days ago and I did nothing. I did absolutely nothing. I said no to people. I hung out
Good.
with the people that I wanted to hang out with. I saw my family. And it's just so funny. I went home yesterday and my family member was like, you look a lot more relaxed, not as tense. And I'm
Good.
out that I can say no to people. I can,
Yeah.
you know, like I can live my life the way that I want because everyone else is doing it for themselves. Why can't I do it?
Exactly. Yes.
And a half has just been amazing. Just sitting at home,
Yes.
nothing, and just being in the moment. So I wasn't in a rush to go back to work, which is really nice because I'm like setting a boundary for myself. Like, you know, what we were talking about earlier, setting a boundary and just making time for self care, whether it's the hour a day or whatever it is, setting the intention, journaling.
Exactly.
I'm distracted by the comment.
I think that's great. I think the important part you brought up is being able to say no. You know, you don't always owe your time to other people just because they ask for it. I like to think of it. I'm someone who has a tendency to just want to help people. You know, and I'm not just talking to friends. Like, I'm talking to strangers. Like, I just have this need to like give to everyone but me.
Yeah.
And I found that at some point it becomes I can become resentful if I've given too much. Because I haven't filled my own cup. So now it's like every time I have a tendency to like, or every time I have an urge to just give away my time or whatever, I ask myself, what do you need? Right? I flip it because I make sure I take care of my needs first so that I'm filling that cup and then I can give from that cup. But because once I filled my own, I found that now that I say yes to my needs first, I actually can give more selflessly because I'm not looking for something in return because I've already given it to myself. So that's been saying no has been very key to that. I've had to say no to things and requests and and not feel bad about it.
Oh,
Not feel like I'm not.
I was like, well, I feel really bad. Maybe, I can fix it. I tried to fix things, and I was like, no, no, I'm not
Nope, it's not my job. It's not my job to fix
doing
everything.
it. Not happening.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. So on that note, I think we talked about a lot in self-image. I have self-care, self-concept, social media, which is good because we're doing this on social media. Awesome. I think we can close episode 1 on this note. We had a good conversation. It was nice talking to you, and our audience can look forward to just various topics under women's empowerment. Me and Ruchi will be talking to people from all walks of life that are interested, and we hope you stay tuned. Thanks, everyone. Bye.